Some scams are so stupid they shouldn't work. But guess what? They did. 1. The Great Pyramid Scheme that sold. The actual pyramids. In the 1920s, a con artist named Victor Lustig managed to sell the Eiffel Tower twice. But before that, his apprentice took it up a notch. Posing as an Egyptian official, he convinced wealthy tourists that the government was auctioning off sections of the pyramids for restoration funding. Buyers paid thousands for fake ownership deeds, proudly framing them in their mansions like ancient NFTs. When word got out, instead of shame, they doubled down, claiming it was a philanthropic investment. That's right, rich people bought imaginary rocks, then bragged about it. It's the earliest recorded case of someone getting scammed and humble bragging about it. If irony had a stock market, this one would have closed at record highs. But it's 2. The salad oil emperor who outsmarted Wall Street. In the 1960s, a New Jersey man named Anthony Tino DeAngelis pulled off one of the dumbest yet most lucrative cons in financial history, the Great Salad Oil Swindle. He convinced banks he was storing millions of gallons of vegetable oil as collateral. In reality, his massive storage tanks were mostly filled with seawater, with a thin layer of oil floating on top to fool inspectors. The scam collapsed when an employee accidentally stirred one of the tanks. The result? $200 million vanished, and Tino walked away with barely a scratch. Wall Street called it a tragedy. Everyone else called it karma in a can. 3. The man who sold the Brooklyn Bridge. Every Sunday, George C. Parker wasn't just a con artist. He was a real estate visionary in an alternate universe. In early 1900s New York, Parker sold the Brooklyn Bridge to gullible immigrants. Not once, but dozens of times. He printed fake deeds, wore a top hat, and spoke with the confidence of a man selling beachfront property on Mars. Some buyers even tried to set up toll booths before police explained they didn't, in fact, own the bridge. When asked how he pulled it off, Parker said, "People believe what they want to believe, especially if it comes with a view." Modern translation: he was the first guy to invent click-to-agree scams, only with more cement and less Wi-Fi. 4. The lottery that was literally a lie. In 1995, a tiny town in Florida launched the world's honest lottery. Tickets were $25 each, and the grand prize was advertised as a life-changing $5 million. The only problem? There was no money, no investors, and, small detail, no plan to actually hold a drawing. The organizer, a used car salesman named Roy Hale, told reporters that the winnings were secured in a confidential offshore account, which was technically true because that account didn't exist anywhere on Earth. When local officials asked for proof, Hale doubled down, saying, "You have to believe in luck before you can win it." By the time authorities caught on, he had sold over 14,000 tickets and skipped town with the proceeds. The funniest part? A few ticket holders still defended him, claiming he was a dreamer ahead of his time. Roy might have been a con man, but he understood the American spirit perfectly. Never underestimate how far blind optimism and a scratch-off ticket can take you. 5. The church that sold tickets to heaven. In the 1980s, a self-proclaimed pastor in California found a loophole in capitalism and theology at the same time. He began selling literal tickets to heaven, shiny gold cards printed with clouds and angel wings, for $50 apiece. His claim? They guaranteed front-of-the-line access at the pearly gates. The more you donated, the closer your seat would be to God, with VIP packages that included eternal refreshments. Thousands of people mailed him checks, hoping to pre-book eternity like a cruise. When the IRS investigated, he argued it was a symbolic act of faith and somehow convinced a jury to acquit him of fraud. The scammer kept preaching, now calling himself a celestial travel agent. The scam worked because it perfectly merged two great American pastimes: religion and customer loyalty programs. If heaven ever gets Wi-Fi, he'll probably start selling upgrades. 6. The Ponzi scheme. Built on marked Beanie Babies. During the late 90s Beanie Baby craze, a couple from Illinois decided to turn the stuffed animal mania into a high-yield investment fund. They promised investors 300% returns, claiming to have exclusive distribution rights and a global resale network. In reality, their warehouse was a single garage packed to the ceiling with pastel bears and a dream. For a while, it worked. Returns were paid using money from new investors, and some people actually made small profits. Then the market crashed, and everyone realized they'd spent their savings on a pile of fabric shaped like regret. When the couple was finally arrested, they defended themselves by saying they were victims of the economy. The judge called it the most absurd portfolio ever created. Somewhere in a box under someone's bed, a mint-condition Princess Diana bear is still silently judging the entire capitalist system. 7. The man who sold air from the Alps. In 2016, a Canadian entrepreneur had a groundbreaking idea: sell bottled mountain air to smog-choked cities in China. He called it Vitality Air, and each can promised fresh alpine oxygen direct from nature. He wasn't lying. It was technically just compressed air scooped from the Rockies. The absurd part? People actually bought it. Thousands of customers spent up to $30 a bottle to literally inhale nothing. The founder bragged that they'd sold out in 4 days, proving once again that you can sell absolutely anything if you put wellness on the label. Critics called it the most expensive breath ever. Sold, but he doubled down, launching limited edition luxury air for $99 a can. Forget gold or oil, the real modern commodity is gullibility. If he ever sells vintage 1990s mall air, someone will probably buy that too. 8. The fake prince who rented a palace by the hour. In 2007, a man claiming to be Prince Khalid of Qatar began hosting lavish events in Los Angeles. He rented mansions, wore designer suits, and threw champagne parties where guests handed him investment gifts to secure business deals in Dubai. In reality, he was just a broke former valet with an accent he learned from YouTube. His scam fell apart when he accidentally tipped a parking attendant with a $100 bill that had his own face printed on it. When police arrested him, they found forged royal documents, fake bodyguards, and one very confused pet peacock. The kicker? Some victims refused to press charges, saying he made us feel important. That's the essence of every good scam. People don't buy the lie, they buy how it makes them feel. And in this case, it felt like royalty, right up until the cops showed up. 9. The psychic who sold stock tips from the spirit world. In the late 1970s, a self-described clairvoyant financial advisor named Marla Diamond convinced hundreds of investors she could communicate with the spirits of dead economists. She held candlelit market seances where she'd claim to channel the ghost of J.P. Morgan or Andrew Carnegie for exclusive investment advice. Her biggest hit? A cosmic prediction that oil prices would triple, based on messages from the astral Dow Jones. Investors poured millions into her ethereal opportunity fund. When it inevitably tanked, Marla told followers the spirits had changed their minds. The SEC shut her down, but not before she disappeared with the remaining cash and a gold-plated crystal ball worth $40,000. The funniest part? Decades later, some of her clients still said she had good energy. Only in America could a psychic bankruptcy be seen as a vibe shift. 10. The guy who sold the moon. In 1980, a man named Dennis Hope noticed something strange. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty said no nation could own the moon, but it didn't say anything about individuals. So, naturally, he declared ownership of the entire lunar surface and started selling 1-acre plots for $20 each. He sent his land claim to the United Nations, got no response, and took silence as approval. Over 40 years, Hope sold millions of acres to everyone from celebrities to corporations, complete with official-looking deeds and lunar coordinates. Technically, he broke no laws, because no one ever thought someone would try this. NASA ignored him, but real estate agents started asking about moon zoning. By the 2000s, he'd made millions, all from imaginary dirt 238,000 miles away. The moral? You can't own the moon, but you can absolutely monetize stupidity at scale. 11. The man who traded a paperclip for a house. In 2005, a Canadian man named Kyle McDonald started with a single red paperclip and made a wild promise. He'd keep trading it for bigger and better things until he owned a house. Everyone thought it was performance art or a scam, until it actually worked. Over 14 trades, he went from a paperclip to a fish pen, to a doorknob, to a generator, and eventually to a Hollywood movie role, which he swapped for a 2-story home in Saskatchewan. The whole stunt was part genius, part pure chaos, and part commentary on how barter, hype, and media attention can inflate value beyond logic. Kyle didn't just trade objects, he traded stories. And in a world obsessed with virality, that turned out to be more valuable than money. By the end, he wasn't a scammer. He was capitalism's weirdest success story, proof that attention is the new currency. 12. The Nigerian prince who never existed. We all know the Nigerian prince email scam, the one promising millions in exchange for a small processing fee. But here's the wild twist. The original mastermind wasn't even Nigerian. In the early 2000s, investigators found that the earliest versions came from a scammer in Canada who simply used Nigeria's reputation for corruption as cover. He automated emails under fake royal names, promising riches to anyone gullible enough to wire money overseas. His pitch was simple, his grammar terrible, by design. Bad spelling filtered out skeptics, leaving only the most trusting victims. Psychologists later called it the perfect stupidity filter. The scam became so iconic, it turned into a meme. But the profits were real. Authorities estimate the total take at nearly $700 million worldwide. It's the most successful fictional monarchy in history, and the only one powered entirely by Outlook. 13. The woman who sold her invisible sculpture for $18,000. In 2021, an Italian artist named Salvatore Garau auctioned off an invisible sculpture, a work of imagination made entirely of air and concept. Inspired by his success, an American influencer named Maya the Visionary pulled the same stunt, claiming she'd created a metaphysical twin of his piece. She called it The Absence, a sculpture made of vibrational energy. Collectors laughed, then started bidding. The final sale price? $18,000. When critics asked to see it, Maya said it could only be viewed in the mind's eye under specific spiritual lighting conditions. One buyer demanded a refund after realizing he'd purchased, quite literally, nothing. Maya refused, saying, "You can't return enlightenment." She disappeared soon after, though technically she was never visible to begin with. It's the perfect modern scam. No product, no delivery, no evidence. Just vibes and Venmo. 14. The teen who ran a fake bank. In 2016, an 18-year-old named Tariq Hill from Georgia pulled off one of the most absurd scams in financial history. He created a fake bank, complete with a website, official-looking credit cards, and even a customer service hotline. He called it First National Savings, which sounded bland enough to be believable. Using Photoshop and sheer confidence, he convinced people to deposit money into accounts that didn't exist. The wild part? He actually issued loans, fake ones, that borrowers paid back with interest. For months, nobody realized the entire operation was run from his bedroom with a laptop and a dream. When the FBI finally caught him, his only defense was, "Well, it worked, didn't it?" And honestly, he had a point. It did. He exploited the oldest truth in finance. If your logo looks boring enough, people will trust you with their money. Somewhere, an actual bank executive probably took notes. 15. The fake investment guru who predicted the future after it happened. In 2009, a man named Robert Allen claimed he could predict stock prices using a quantum forecasting algorithm. He ran an email subscription service that sent daily predictions about which companies would rise or fall. Thousands of people signed up after seeing his perfect record. What no one realized was that Allen had created 10,000 different email lists, each with different predictions. Whichever prediction came true, he emailed that group again, deleting the others. After a few rounds, a few hundred subscribers had seen him predict correctly 10 times in a row. They poured in millions. When exposed, he shrugged and said, "I just let probability do the work." It was the perfect con. No hacking, no math, just math vibes. It's proof that people don't need accuracy. They just need confidence and a good-looking chart. 16. The guy who rented out other people's houses on Airbnb. In 2019, a man named Jamal Boyd realized he didn't need to own property to make money on Airbnb. He just needed keys. He posed as a property manager, found luxury homes listed for sale, and convinced potential buyers to let him show the place to clients. Then he quietly listed them on Airbnb, renting them out to tourists for months. Guests left glowing reviews for homes whose actual owners had no idea strangers were sleeping in their beds. When police arrested him, he'd made over $300,000, complete with superhost status and a perfect rating for communication. His defense? "I provided a service." Technically, he wasn't wrong, just not to the people who thought they owned the houses. The lesson: never underestimate a scammer with Wi-Fi, charm, and a decent cleaning service. 17. The $10 million goat scam. In 2013, a pair of Florida businessmen convinced investors they'd developed the Tesla of agriculture, a revolutionary goat breeding operation that used genetic engineering to produce super-productive dairy goats. They called it BioCapra, hired actors to play scientists, and even staged fake labs using props from a local college theater department. Investors toured the facilities and watched researchers in white coats milk goats for promotional videos. The milk was actually bought from Walmart. Within 2 years, they raised over $10 million before anyone realized every scientific claim was nonsense. When the truth came out, one investor said, "I just didn't want to seem like the guy who didn't understand the future." And there it is, the secret ingredient in every scam: pride. Forget goats. The real cash cow is people who'd rather lose money than admit confusion. Number 18. The woman who sold ice cubes as Arctic art. In 2017, a self-proclaimed eco-artist from Portland began selling limited edition Arctic memory sculptures, which were literally ice cubes shipped from Alaska. Each cube came in a clear plastic box labeled Melting Awareness and sold for $150. She claimed the proceeds would fund climate consciousness, though the fine print revealed it actually funded her personal creative journey. Buyers didn't seem to care. They loved the symbolism. Photos of the melting cubes on Instagram went viral, and she sold out her collection in 2 weeks. When reporters asked how she shipped ice through the mail, she said, "That's part of the performance." Translation: she didn't. She just mailed empty boxes and called it artistic evaporation. It's the perfect modern scam. Environmental guilt plus influencer branding equals frozen profit. 19. The man who sold shark repellent for the internet. In 1999, a man named Harold Klein launched a company called CyberSafe Solutions, promising software that would protect people from online shark attacks. The pitch was simple. If the ocean had sharks, the internet did too. His $50 CD-ROM repelled viruses, hackers, and digital predators. It was actually a screensaver with a looping animation of sharks swimming away from your cursor. Somehow, it went viral. The 1999 version of viral, sold on Home Shopping TV and at Walmart. He made nearly $2 million before a tech journalist exposed the software as useless. When asked if he'd scammed people, Harold smiled and said, "I gave them peace of mind. That's worth something." He wasn't wrong. In the end, he didn't sell software. He sold security theater. And that's still how most antivirus companies make their money. 20. The guy who sold time travel insurance. In the early 1990s, a British con man named David Klein started offering time travel insurance for $10 a policy. The deal: if you were ever injured while traveling through time, forward or backward, his company would cover your expenses. He even printed real certificates with embossed seals and legal jargon. Over 10,000 people signed up. When journalists asked how he'd verify a claim, he said, "If they come back from the future with the receipt, I'll honor it." The policy technically wasn't illegal, since it covered an impossible event. David eventually retired, proudly calling himself the only honest time travel insurer in the world. It's hard to argue with that. After all, no one's filed a claim yet. 21. The miracle investment that turned out to be a pyramid. Literally. In 2012, an architect in Nevada convinced investors to fund what he called the Pyramid of Prosperity, a self-sustaining luxury resort shaped like a giant pyramid that supposedly harvested cosmic energy for profit. He promised zero carbon emissions, infinite returns, and spiritual dividends. People lined up to invest millions. He built half of it before vanishing with the money, leaving behind an unfinished concrete triangle in the desert. When reporters visited, one investor said, "I thought the pyramid shape would protect my investment." It didn't. The half-finished site still stands, a literal pyramid scheme, both financially and architecturally. If irony were a building material, it'd be finished by now. 22. The woman who sold her soul on eBay. In 2001, a struggling artist named Diane DeLawrence decided to auction her soul online to make a statement about consumerism. She started the bid at $5. Within days, it hit $100 or $200, sparking moral outrage, legal confusion, and bidding wars among collectors of weird things. eBay eventually shut it down, citing non-tangible item restrictions. Diane, ever the marketer, claimed victory. "Even if I didn't sell my soul, I proved it has market value." She went on to sell certificates of authenticity for $50 each, for the soul that technically never left her body. In a world obsessed with monetizing everything, she managed to sell nothing twice, and that, ironically, made her famous. 23. The man who scammed the Vatican with holy fax machines. In 1998, an Italian entrepreneur pitched a revolutionary idea: fax prayers directly to heaven. For a small fee, churches could subscribe to Divine Line, a network of fax machines that sent prayers straight to the Vatican's celestial server. Thousands of parishioners paid to have their messages digitally blessed. The Vatican eventually denied any involvement, mostly because heaven doesn't have a fax number. But by then, the man had pocketed millions. When caught, he said, "I was just delivering faith faster. If there's a moral here, it's simple. Technology may change, but holy nonsense always finds bandwidth." Humans never stop inventing scams, just better Wi-Fi for the same old stupidity.